The Great War and American Neutrality. The story of Woodrow Wilson's most ambitious dream begins in the trenches of Europe, amidst the unimaginable horror of the First World War. Launched in 1914, the conflict swiftly devolved from a traditional war into a brutal industrial slaughter, consuming millions of lives in a stalemate across the Western Front. For 3 years, the United States, under the leadership of President Woodrow Wilson, maintained a position of strict neutrality. Wilson, a former political science professor and an ardent pacifist, famously campaigned on the slogan, "He kept us out of war." He viewed the conflict as a tragic, morally compromised European affair, driven by antiquated imperial ambitions and secret diplomacy. However, neutrality became increasingly untenable. German submarine warfare, targeting all vessels in war zones, began sinking American merchant ships, resulting in the loss of American lives. These actions were a direct challenge to the American right to freedom of the seas. The decisive factor came in early 1917 with the revelation of the Zimmermann telegram, in which Germany proposed a military alliance with Mexico against the United States. This exposed the direct threat the war posed to American security. Wilson's moral imperative. For Wilson, the decision to enter the war on April 6, 1917 was agonizing, but it was framed not as a pursuit of American territory or wealth, but as a moral crusade. He declared to Congress that the world must be made safe for democracy. Wilson profoundly believed that the U.S. was not fighting for victory alone, but for a new revolutionary purpose, to end all wars. The current international system, based on the balance of power, secret alliances, and militarism, had utterly failed. A new architecture for peace was required. Wilson's idealism was rooted in the conviction that the root causes of war could be eliminated through open diplomacy, adherence to international law, and the establishment of a collective security organization. This moral mission to construct a lasting global peace became his primary focus, overshadowing the tactical demands of the war itself. The blueprint for a better world. By January 1918, while the war was still raging, Wilson unveiled his definitive plan for a global settlement, the 14 points. These principles were not peace demands, but conditions upon which a lasting world order could be built. They served as a powerful declaration of hope and justice, aimed at winning the hearts and minds of the common people in both Allied and Central Powers nations. The first 5 points were foundational, targeting the institutional flaws of pre-war Europe. Wilson demanded open covenants of peace, a direct end to secret diplomacy. He called for absolute freedom of navigation on the seas and the removal of economic barriers for free trade, aiming to reduce international tension and competition. Furthermore, he stressed the need for reduced national armaments to the lowest point consistent with domestic safety, and, crucially, an impartial adjustment of colonial claims, ensuring the interests of colonized peoples were weighed equally against those of the governing powers. This was a radical moral shift away from pure imperial control. The principle of self-determination. The subsequent 8 points addressed specific territorial issues in Europe, guided by the revolutionary concept of national self-determination. This was the belief that people should have the right to choose their own sovereign government and that borders should reflect ethnic and linguistic identities. This principle was intended to dismantle the multi-ethnic empires, Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire, and prevent future conflicts arising from suppressed national aspirations. It called for the creation of an independent Poland with secure sea access, the restoration of Belgian and French territories, and autonomous development for the peoples of the collapsing empires.
This emphasis on creating homogeneous nation-states marked a significant departure from the old practice of merely exchanging territories between powerful monarchs, giving hope to countless oppressed groups across Central and Eastern Europe. The cornerstone: collective security. The 14th and most important point was the capstone of Wilson's entire vision. The call for a general association of nations must be formed, affording mutual guarantees of political independence and territorial integrity to great and small states alike. This was the proposal for the League of Nations. Wilson believed that this organization would be the permanent mechanism of peace, replacing the volatile system of power balances. If any nation were to commit an act of aggression, all member states would act collectively to stop it, guaranteeing collective security. For Wilson, the League was not negotiable. It was the sole structure that could maintain the just peace outlined by the other 13 points. It was the absolute guarantee that the immense sacrifice of the Great War would never be repeated.
Arrival and collision of ideals. The war ended with the armistice in November 1918, and the peace conference convened in Paris in 1919. Wilson made the historic decision to personally lead the American delegation, traveling to Europe to negotiate the settlement. While Europeans hailed him as a savior, the king of the world, the atmosphere among the negotiating leaders was far from idealistic. Wilson found himself facing the Big Four: himself, David Lloyd George of Great Britain, Georges Clemenceau of France, and Vittorio Orlando of Italy. These leaders were driven by pragmatic concerns, national security, historical animosity, and the mandate to extract heavy reparations for the crushing cost of the war. Clemenceau, the French Prime Minister, epitomized the demand for retribution. He was focused on permanently crippling Germany to guarantee France's safety, rejecting Wilson's leniency. Lloyd George was more measured, but was compelled by his public to secure vast reparations. Wilson was trapped. His ideals for a non-punitive, just peace clashed directly with the Allied demands for vengeance. The European leaders had their own secret treaties and vested interests that contradicted the spirit of the 14 points. The Great Compromise. To save his primary objective, the League of Nations, Wilson began a series of painful compromises. He was forced to abandon nearly all of his other 14 points. He accepted the imposition of massive reparations payments on Germany and conceded to the territorial changes dictated by the Allied powers, many of which violated the principle of self-determination. Most damagingly, he acquiesced to the infamous War Guilt Clause, Article 231, which forced Germany to accept sole responsibility for the war, a humiliating condition that bred deep resentment and instability. Wilson made these enormous sacrifices with the belief that the League of Nations could act as a permanent body to correct the inevitable injustices of the Versailles Treaty over time. He successfully insisted that the covenant of the League be integrated into the treaty itself, making the two inseparable. On June 28, 1919, the Treaty of Versailles was signed. Wilson returned home, not with the peace of justice he had dreamed of, but with a punitive peace, mitigated only by the inclusion of his international organization. He had won the League, but lost the peace. Now the final and most crucial battle awaited him in Washington.
Opposition at home. Wilson's political fight for the League climaxed in the U.S. Senate, which held the constitutional power to ratify or reject the treaty. To ratify, Wilson needed a two-thirds majority, a difficult task given the strong Republican opposition. The opposition was skillfully led by Senator Henry Cabot Lodge, the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Lodge was not an outright isolationist, but he was a firm nationalist who feared that the League Covenant, particularly Article 10, would erode American sovereignty. Article 10 was the collective security provision, pledging member states to use their military and economic resources to protect fellow members from external aggression. Lodge and his faction, the reservationists, argued that this article would automatically commit the U.S. to European wars without the explicit constitutional approval of Congress. They proposed a series of reservations to the treaty, designed to explicitly protect Congress's power to declare war and control foreign policy. Had Wilson accepted these reservations, he likely would have secured Senate ratification. Wilson's fatal stubbornness. Wilson, exhausted and intensely protective of his creation, viewed the reservations as emasculating the League. He refused to compromise, telling his Democratic allies to vote against the treaty if any reservations were attached. He demanded the whole treaty or no treaty at all. Unable to persuade the Senate from Washington, Wilson embarked on a massive, frantic cross-country public speaking tour in September 1919 to appeal directly to the American people. He believed he could force the Senate to act by rallying popular support. The physical strain was too great. Wilson, already weak, suffered a massive stroke on October 2, 1919, which left him incapacitated and isolated for the remainder of his presidency. In his compromised state, Wilson maintained his unyielding stance. Twice, the Senate voted on the Treaty of Versailles. Both times, it failed to secure the required two-thirds majority. The final vote in March 1920 sealed the fate of the League in America. The nation whose president conceived the League, the country with the economic and moral authority to ensure its success, decided not to join.
The failure and the lesson. The United States' rejection was a crippling blow. The League of Nations went forward without American participation, severely limited in its authority and enforcement capacity. Without the U.S., the League lacked the necessary global reach to be truly effective. Throughout the 1920s and 1930s, the League achieved some minor successes, but failed dramatically when challenged by the major aggressors of the era: Japan in Manchuria, Italy in Abyssinia, and Germany under Hitler. Lacking a powerful enforcement mechanism and the collective resolve of all major democracies, the League proved incapable of stopping the march toward global conflict. 20 years after the Treaty of Versailles was signed, the world descended into the most destructive war in human history, validating Wilson's fear that without a permanent global structure, humanity would regress. The triumph of the idea. Wilson died in 1924, a man defeated in his time. Yet his vision was not lost. When the Allied powers planned the post-World War II peace, they did so with the conscious memory of the League's failure. They recognized that Wilson's fundamental idea, that collective security is the only guarantor of peace, was correct. In 1945, the United Nations, UN, was established, a direct descendant of Wilson's 14th point. The UN was built to correct the flaws of the League, featuring a more effective Security Council and, crucially, securing the immediate and central participation of the United States. Wilson's dream was ultimately realized, though delayed by a generation. The core principles he articulated, open diplomacy, self-determination, and the reliance on international institutions, became the bedrock of the modern world order.
His personal failure to compromise in 1919 was a tragic political miscalculation, but his underlying idea proved to be the indispensable foundation for global peace and cooperation today.